Hello, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Jess.
She's the traumatized.
And she's the abandoned.
And welcome to our podcast, where we talk about true crime, spooky things, and everything in between.
And today we're talking about some horrifying history. Let's go.
I think this is one of my favorite topics to talk about because I love history. I hated my history teacher, which was unfortunate, but yeah, I love learning about the past.
Oh,
I mean, if you remember when we were conceptualizing this podcast, this was the first thing I wanted.
Conceptualizing,
because you're like, let's talk about true crime and spooky things, and I'm like, but I want to talk about horrifying histories too, because those are interesting. And shipwrecks.
And then we just started adding. It's like, I think at one point I was like, all right, here's the thing. I think we need to we need to have some sort of.
And I'm like, I want to talk about everything. And you're like, no, Nikki, calm down. I was like, okay, I'll put them in these boxes and we can rotate which one we talk about.
Because it was our list of things to talk about was like a lot. We just love talking to you guys. That's what
I didn't want to put us into a little box where we just talk about two things. I wanted to talk about more things.
All the things.
So we compromised. We rotate.
Yeah. We rotate. Which it helps my OCD. And I think it keeps us on our toes with like stories too. Like we're literally never gonna run out of stories.
Nope.
Ever.
Hopefully.
Never. Anyway, how was your week?
It was pretty good. Yeah, I kind of finished editing the podcast early, so I kind of had Thursday and Friday where I did nothing.
That sounds so good.
Podcast wise, so I cleaned a little bit, and then I played video games with my son and got bullied on Minecraft for 5 hours. It's fine. I'm fine.
I wanted to talk to you, so I was like, hey, let's hang out. The first thing you say when I get in chat, I was like, did you destroy my bed? Why are you killing me? Literally, he destroyed her bed so she would have to respawn at spawn.
It's a good thing I didn't build our house too far away from spawn, but still very annoying.
That's hilarious. What?
But good bonding time with my little man.
Yeah, that's always good.
I started a new book that my friend recommended, Zodiac Academy. I knew when I started this series, it would pull me under, but I wasn't feeling the pull. So I read the first chapter, right? Okay. Read the second chapter. I'm like, okay. Then the third chapter, and I could feel the suction. I could feel it sucking me down.
It gets so bad.
Because I was only going to read one chapter and then start getting ready. And I ended up reading 2. And I'm like, no, I have to get ready. I have to get ready for the podcast
and you
today.
Oh my God. Nikki, I just want to go ahead and apologize for what I've done, because this series is one of the ones where I finished a book in a day.
I mean, but I love those series.
I mean, it's one of those that just the one book 7, I ended up staying up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning sobbing.
I love that though.
I'm here for you. I've done this to you, so I'm going to be your emotional support through this. I'm reading, and I'm rereading it with her, guys.
Yeah.
So, also, I'm the friend.
I'm the friend that recommended
if you didn't catch that before.
What other friends do we have? It's fine.
It's fine.
Everything's fine. We're fine.
It's fine.
Anyways, started a new book series. Very interested to see where it goes. Anywho, how was your week?
It was good.
Work was good.
Work was good. It was very busy because I was off all last week, and it was a holiday, and there are a lot of babies. I had 2 sets of twins and a set of triplets born in 2 days.
Oh my gosh. That's insane.
A lot of babies being born, a lot of crazy names. I swear it keeps
getting worse.
Yeah, so work was good.
Good.
Very busy. Just try to get through January is always really hard, like mentally anyway. So pushing through. Also, Mercury's in retrograde, so I'm sure something will happen.
Anyway. Knock on all the fake wood.
Oh my gosh, something so cute that I didn't realize my grandmother did. Whenever she goes knock on wood, she like knocks on her head. my 82-year-old grandmother.
Oh my god.
We were visiting with family over Christmas and she would knock on her head. I was like,
that's not it. Is there wood up there?
I don't know. She's adorable though.
That's cute.
Anyways, fun fact of the day.
Fun fact of the day.
Did you know that the filling in Kit Kats is actually made from damaged Kit Kats?
Do you know how I eat a Kit Kat? I eat all the chocolate around it, and so it's just the wafer, and then I pull it apart and eat the inside of the wafers. So you're telling me I'm just eating crushed up Kit Kats? Because that's the best part.
I'm rethinking.
That's the best part.
So much. I can't judge you on that though, because I eat Nutter Butters or Nutty Buddies or whatever they're called. You know how they have all those layers? I peel each layer off and eat each layer individually. So I can't judge you. But I am a little. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're crushed up Kit Kats.
Great.
I want to watch you eat a Kit Kat now. I'm picturing this and it's so weird. Anyway,
another Nikki fun fact for you guys. There you go.
She's a psychopath who eats all the chocolate off of the Kit Kats. We should make a TikTok. You eat Kit Kats and I'll eat Nutty Buddies. Why are we listening to these people? They're so weird.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway. So, what's your story about?
Okay. So, my story is about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory in New York City.
I've never heard of this.
Really?
I'm so interested.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, little backstory real quick. I'm a reader, in case you guys didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't know what would have given that away.
But yeah, so I read a lot of books in high school, and actually one of the books that really stands out to me, I think it was called it's called Uprising.
Okay.
By Margaret Peterson Haddix. And basically it's which one's which? Fiction and nonfiction.
Fiction is fake. Nonfiction is real.
Okay, so it's a fiction book about this situation. And it just really, it was like one of those impressionable books you read as a young person. And it like really sticks. And it's about what I'm going to tell you about today.
I'm really excited. Okay.
In the early 1900s, the textile industry was booming, especially in New York City. Factories thrived on cheap labor of immigrants flocking to New York City from Europe. In most cases, these immigrants had fled oppressive nations, carrying with them their tailoring skills, which they passed down to their younger generations. These immigrants were exploited and forced to work long hours with little pay in the textile factories in New York City. According to one survey taken in the 1890s, the average work week in textile shops was 84 hours.
Jesus.
12 hours a day for every day of the week.
Wow. That's insane. Holy hell.
One such factory we'll be talking about today is the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. Entrepreneurs Max Blank and Isaac Harris, who were actually in-laws with each other, watched as the booming textile industry made its mark on New York City. They knew that there was money to be made, so they embarked on a plan to open the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. The shirtwaist, or ladies' blouse, was one of America's first fashion trends to transcend the class divide. So basically, this is kind of like where fast fashion was born.
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, fast fashion is like something comes into fashion, things are like produced really quickly and sold.
Okay.
You know what fast fashion is, right?
No.
It's basically that. So like something comes into fashion, it's produced very quickly, cheaply, or like nowadays it would be Shein, Fashion Nova. Like those are considered fast fashion.
They're like cheaper.
So basically fast fashion is like Fashion Nova, Shein. They make things really quickly, cheaply, with cheap labor. And it's very controversial because it's very wasteful. Very wasteful, and like the new generation that's all about like the wellness of the world and stuff hate fast fashion. So it's like slowly like declining. But this is kind of like where it started, where it was born. Because they could pump out these shirtwaists so fast. There's a shirt. And with a waist.
You know what? That makes sense. Okay. That checks out.
And here's just kind of like an ad of like the different kinds. Like they would have different like ruching or plating and stuff.
Okay. For $1.
Yeah, for $1. Imagine getting a shirt for $1. I would scream.
I don't even think like you can at like Goodwill. I don't think you can get. I don't think they sell shirts at dollar store. Like I don't think that's even possible.
The shirtwaist enabled a wave of women's liberation. The versatility of the shirtwaist was a hot commodity in a time when women's clothing was like layered and bulky and like everything. So like with this, you could just like throw on a skirt, throw on a shirt, and you're good to go to work. You know what I mean? It was appropriate for working in a factory, attend temperance, which was a movement that fought to reduce alcohol consumption, and attend a ladies' auxiliary meeting. So apparently temperance was a thing with like women would just get together and be like, let's ban alcohol because our men are awful.
That totally gives me like Mary Poppins vibes when they like all band together.
So I'm assuming temperance is where prohibition kind of came from by the sounds of it. In 1900, Blank and Harris named their business the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, moving into an ideal location just a year later, which was a building named after its developer, Joseph Ashe. The owners leased the 9th floor of the building, which was a little more than 9,000 square feet, and they outfitted the space with machines and set to manufacturing their products. They moved to the 9th floor, and by 1909, the business leased the 8th and 10th floors as well. So 8th, 9th, and 10th floors. And the 10th floor was the top floor. And they employed hundreds of workers. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory was the definition of a true sweatshop. It mostly employed young immigrant women and teenagers, many of whom didn't speak English and worked in a cramped space at lines of sewing machines. They didn't even have like elbow room, like not even like that much space. It was just like super tight, super cramped. Yeah. Like I said earlier, the workers work 12-hour days every single day of the week, making maybe $6 a week or a yearly salary of $300 to $600 or $300 to $400.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay.
While the owners, Blank and Harris, were known as the Shirtwaist Kings and made millions.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're selling these freaking shirts for $1 and they're only paying their workers $6 for the week, and they're working. And remember, they're working 80, what did you say, 84 hours a week?
80, like 6 hours a week.
Jesus
12 hours
Christ.
a day.
Actually insane.
The nature of these factories were highly competitive with one another, leading to production being at a frenzied and dangerous pace. Like I said, very much like fast fashion. Many basic necessities were denied, such as running fire drills, because that would have cut into production time.
Wow.
Although the building was newer, many safety features were not installed because they were not regulated by the government at the time. So there was no sprinkler system installed,
Jesus.
even though they were an option at the time. They just had a few buckets of water.
Sorry. It's not funny.
I think by now you guys are kind of understanding where this story is going to go.
Yeah, fortunately.
There were 4 elevators, but only one was operational at the time. There were 2 stairwells down to the street, but one was locked to prevent stealing.
Oh my God.
And the other door would open inwards towards the room, which will come into play in a little bit. The building also had an insufficient fire escape.
Insufficient.
With it being rusty and very narrow.
Jesus. Okay.
So you can see that the building wasn't really equipped to be a factory. What it kind of like sounds like to me is like these people, like these owners would just like buy floors on random buildings and just shove like a factory in there. Because you don't think of like, when you think of like a factory, you think of like its own building away from like everything. You don't think of it 100%. As in a skyrise in the middle of New York City.
No.
Like, insane to me.
Yeah. And very dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
In 1909, the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, mouthful, led a strike, demanding better working conditions, higher pay, and shorter, more predictable hours. Throughout New York's garment district, more than 15,000 shirtwaist makers walked out. They demanded a 20% pay raise, a 52-hour work week, and extra pay for overtime. And when the picketing began, more than 20,000 workers from 500 factories had walked out. More than 70 of the smaller factories agreed to the union's demands within the first 48 hours. However, Blank and Harris's company was one of the few manufacturers that resisted, hiring police as thugs to imprison the striking women.
What?
And paying off politicians to look the other way.
Wow.
And soon the women returned to work without the benefit of a union, with, of course, none of the conditions improving. Which brings us to the climax of my story.
All right.
On Saturday, March 25th, 1911, close to closing time, a fire broke out in the cutting room on the 8th floor of the Ash building.
Oh no. 8th floor. Okay.
So the 8th floor, what sounds like the 8th floor was for cutting. The 9th floor was for sewing, if that makes sense. And then the 10th floor was the offices, like the CEOs. That's where their offices and stuff was.
Okay.
What caused the fire to begin has never been determined, but theories include maybe a cigarette was thrown into one of the scrap bins.
Oh, Jesus.
Or there was a spark from a machine, or faulty wiring. We just don't know.
Okay.
Either way, most workers on the 8th floor escaped, and a phone call to the 10th floor led to most of those workers escaping through the roof, including the executives. They climbed up to the roof and then was helped over to the next building. Actually, on that day, one of the executives' daughters was with him. So like when I was reading that, I was like, oh no, I hope the daughter doesn't die. And she didn't.
Right.
They climbed onto the roof, and then somebody from the next building saw that people were on the roof and like let down a ladder, and they basically climbed to a different building.
Okay.
And that's how they were able to escape. However, in the panic to evacuate, no one warned the workers on the 9th floor.
Stop.
I suppose this is a part where I should tell you to buckle in. Okay, somebody woke up and put sass in their coffee today.
I did. I had extra sass. Sorry.
I was just giving you a warning.
But I don't want to. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm ready. I'm buckled in. Let's go.
The workers had no idea what was happening until the smoke and flames had spread to them. The only unlocked door led to a stairwell already filled with smoke. I watched a small documentary on HBO Max called Triangle, Remembering the Fire.
Ooh. Okay.
In that documentary, the elevator operator's great-great-grandson describes the operator's experience. So this is kind of like secondhand information. So is it true? Is it not true? I don't know.
Right.
But I thought it was very interesting either way. So Joseph Cito was about to get off work when the service bell started ringing incessantly to the 9th floor. When he got to the 9th floor, the women were frantic and he could see the flames behind them. The elevator was only supposed to hold 12 people. But for many of the trips, it was double that. So he would take double the amount. Each time he went back up, he could see the flames above him. So, because he has to go past the 8th floor. So he's looking up, seeing the flames, and like keep going in there. Yeah, but he kept going up into the fire to save people because he was like their only way out. At some point, the elevator stopped working. Whether it was due to the fire or because of the load became too heavy for it to lift anymore, because whether in a panic or because of pure desperation, women started to jump down the elevator shaft.
Stop!
Or tried to slide down the cords, failing and falling.
I hate elevators.
The only fire escape on the building I spoke about earlier was so small that it would have taken 3 hours for people to escape. Remember how I said it was like so narrow?
Jesus.
But that didn't matter because the fire escape actually collapsed, killing many and eliminating the only remaining rescue route for many others still trapped.
No. Oh my God. I'm not okay. No, this is so bad.
Sorry.
How have I never heard of this?
I don't know. Remember, I read about this as like a teenager.
Jesus Christ.
In a fictional book. And like in the book, it's told from like the girls' perspective.
Seriously.
Yes.
That's terrifying.
It's good though. Like it really enlightened me on like what conditions were like for immigrants in New York City at that time. Pump Engine Company 20 and Ladder Company 20 arrived quickly, which is like the fire department, but their ladders only extended to the 6th floor of the building.
They're on the 9th.
Yep. They also tried putting out the fire with their hoses, but most were hindered in their effort by bodies.
That's not good.
Not only did the desperate women jump down the elevator shaft, they chose to jump out the windows too, falling nearly 80 feet to their death.
Oh my God.
Firefighters put out nets, but at one point 3 girls jumped at the same time and ripped the net.
Come on.
Within 18 minutes, it was all over. The fire was out.
Yeah, but is it because it had burned through everything?
49 workers had burned to death or had suffocated from the smoke. 36 were dead in the elevator shaft.
Oh my God.
And 58 died from jumping to the sidewalks, with 2 more dying later from their injuries. A total of 146 people were killed by the fire that lasted 18 minutes.
Oh my God. Fuck. Okay.
In the weeks that followed, the grieving city identified the dead, sorting out their belongings, and reeled in numbed grief at the atrocity that could have been averted with a few precautions.
Safety precautions. God.
Protesting voices arose, bewildered and angry at the lack of concern and the greed that had made this possible. The people demanded restitution, justice, and action that would safeguard the vulnerable and the oppressed. On April 11th, a grand jury indicted Harris and Blank on 7 counts, charging them with manslaughter in the second degree under Section 80 of the Labor Code, which mandated that doors should not be locked during working hours. On December 27th, 23 days after the trial had started, a jury of all white men acquitted Blank and Harris of any wrongdoing.
Why? How? Where? What? Why? How? What do you mean?
The task of the jurors had been to determine whether the owners knew that the doors were locked at the time of the fire, and the defense attorney had planted enough doubt. Grieving families and much of the public felt that justice had not been done, which is very true. It had not been done. 23 individual civil suits were brought against the owners. On March 11th, 1914, 3 years after the fire, Harris and Blank settled. They paid They paid $75 per life lost. However, not only did these assholes not go to jail for their severe negligence, but they indeed profited off of this fire. How, do you ask? The insurance. That's right. The insurance company paid Blank and Harris about $60,000, which was more than the reported losses, or about $400 per casualty.
So these assholes made $325 on each death.
Yes. You can tell I was very angry in that paragraph. The fire at Triangle Waste Company on March 25th, 1911 is widely considered a pivotal moment in history, leading to the transformation of the Labor Code of New York State and to the adoption of fire safety measures that served as a model for the whole country. Instrumental in this transformation was the work of the New York Factory Investigative Commission, which wrote 36 of the new labor-related bills that state legislature eventually adopted. Also significant is the work of the local government agencies and unions, which adopted fire safety measures and monitored conditions in factories. The legacy of the Triangle Fire cannot be fully appreciated without also taking into account the great significance the tragedy acquired and continues to have for the labor movement up to this day. And that is my story.
Gonna vomit. That's insane. Wow.
It's insane.
Fuck. That's really heavy.
Sorry.
I mean, don't be. That was crazy.
I think it's an important story.
Yeah, it's one that, like I said, I've never heard of it, so it was really important.
I promise my next story will not be heavy. I feel like I've had so many heavy hitters recently.
Absolutely. Okay, my turn.
Your turn.
My turn. All right.
I'm very interested on yours.
I'm going to be talking about the Poveglia Island, and I don't think you've ever heard of that. I had never heard of that. So you were saying how you love doing horrifying history. It's actually one of my least favorites. But it's fine because I think we really do complement each other in that way. It's really hard for me to find things. I don't know why, but I do have one for the next go around already lined up. Yeah. So I'm doing the Poveglia Island. Some early history. In the South Lagoon between Venice and Lido sits a small Italian island of Poveglia. And again, if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm sorry. I tried my best to do research. I do not speak Italian, so yeah. That for centuries had been a refuge, stronghold, and also a place of exile and dumping ground for diseased and dying and deceased.
What?
So in 421, Poveglia welcomed its first inhabitants, men, women, and children who fled the barbaric invaders that had ravaged the mainland. Its relatively small size made the island defendable and not worth the trouble of invading armies. So it was like a safe haven of sorts. For centuries, this small community lived in peace and avoided the laws and taxes of the mainland. Their population dwindled, however, by the 14th century, and the island was then once again abandoned.
Interesting.
In 1348, the bubonic plague arrived in Venice and Poveglia. And like many other small islands, Poveglia became a quarantine colony. The plague killed 1 of 3 Europeans.
Cheaper.
Which is like, yeah, that's insane. Fearing the unbridled spread of the disease, Venice exiled many of its symptom-bearing citizens to Poveglia. It was clearly a death sentence. At the island's center, the dead and those too sick to protest were burned on giant pyres.
Wait, what? So they were burning live people too?
If the symptoms were too severe, they would burn them alive.
Are there like workers who aren't sick with the plague, or are these just other plague people killing plague people?
I don't know that. That's a good question.
That's a thought.
Do you get like promoted? Let's not talk about that.
Okay.
That could get really dark. Yeah, no. It's like this included tens of thousands of Venice citizens that were dying on the mainland. These fires would burn once more in 1630 when the Black Death again swept through the city. So there were 2 different plagues.
Wow.
Long after the fires were extinguished, Napoleon's military campaign relied on the island's ghostly legends and defendable positions to protect stores of gunpowder and weapons. So
interesting.
Right. And we're going to break it down a little bit and talk about the asylum that is on Poveglia as well.
Okay, hold up. So like this was a medical dumping ground.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's like, hey, you know, I heard some things about this island, but I think this is a great place to put an asylum.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so after this was a dumping ground for 2 different plagues in the late 1800s, the area's mentally ill resided in the asylum on Poveglia. So basically this island was a dumping ground.
That's
for sick, for dying,
and people who need
mentally
help.
Ill.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
The asylum was poorly constructed and was used as a place of exile rather than rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
There are rumors that in the 1930s, a doctor performed strange experiments on patients here.
Of course.
Eventually, the doctor went mad and threw himself from the asylum's tall bell tower. Though the bell in the tower was removed decades ago, locals still claim to hear its chimes echoing through the lonely island.
Locals? What do you mean? Like when they're out fishing and stuff?
Yeah, like nobody will go. We'll get to that a little bit later, but like as like fishermen for sure.
Okay.
By the mid 20th century, the facility was converted into a geriatric center for old people.
Oh, it's like a retirement place.
Yeah.
Stop.
Deadass.
Stop. No.
Deadass. But it did close in 1975.
So how long was it open?
It said mid 20th century. So
like 50s to 70s-ish?
Yeah, probably like 20-ish years, I'm guessing.
20 years too much.
Just a quick recap. So Plague 1 came through, bodies burned, everyone died. Plague 2 came through, bodies burned, everyone died. Then they're like, let's build an asylum on this island and send people who are mentally ill there to die. Oh, and now let's change that into a geriatric center where we
send old people to die.
So today, the entire island is abandoned. Locals and tourists are prohibited from visiting, and fishermen still steer clear of the accursed place.
So you can't even go and visit?
You are not allowed to go visit.
Why? Just because?
It was, yeah.
Oh, okay.
In recent years, Italian construction crews attempted to restore the former hospital building, but abruptly stopped without explanation, leaving locals to speculate that they were driven away by the island's dark forces. Overall, The tiny island is said to have hosted over 160,000 infected souls living out their final days and hours.
Wow. That's a lot.
Buckle up.
Okay. What? What do you mean? Okay.
The dead were thrown into deep pits. When these death pits were full, they were set on fire or covered up with dirt.
So they were just thrown into mass graves?
People claim Poveglia is consistent of 50% dirt and 50% human ash.
What the?
Recently, mass graves have been found on nearby islands containing the remains of thousands of other plague victims. This is our fun fact. When these mass graves were discovered a century later, the researchers stumbled upon something that was very unsettling.
The mass grave itself is not unsettling? How many people did you say were sent there?
160,000 people have died on this island.
No, that's 90% human remains and like 10% dirt. What the actual fuck?
Okay. So back to the to the death pits. In some graves, they found skulls with large pieces of rock clamped between their jaws. Why, you ask?
Yes. Why?
Every time when a victim had died, the death pit was reopened to add more people to it. Sometimes a recently buried corpse had blood dripping from his or her mouth. So, little sciencey fact, decomposition gases blew up the corpses from the inside, which caused internal organs to rupture. The blood coming from these organs would then find its way out through the mouth. However, in the 16th century, they didn't know that. So, they believed that the person had to be a vampire who was feasting on other corpses when they saw the blood coming out of their mouths. So
don't laugh. It's not funny.
They would, in the 16th century, in order to slay a vampire, they would put a stone in its mouth so it would starve. So there are skulls found in these death pits with stones in their mouth.
Because they thought the dead bodies were vampire?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on, please. Thank you.
So speaking of those fishermen, they avoid Poveglia Island to this day. Like I said, sometimes you can still hear the bell towers going. They literally navigate around the area wildly. They will not go anywhere near it. When the sky is clear, you can allegedly see skulls and bones underneath the water surface close to the island. And when a skull or bone is accidentally caught in the net, the entire catch is thrown back into the deep. The fishermen would rather take the loss than take the risk of...
Are you kidding me right now? They're fishing up bones?
Like anywhere near the islands. And if they pull up bones or skull, they will throw the entire catch back.
Oh my god. I was not prepared. Okay.
Poveglia has yet to be fully investigated and remains, for now, strictly off limits to visitors. There was a rumor that our lovely ghost adventure buddy Zach Baggins
has Zach on there yet? I need to know.
I think he's approved to go there. So
I mean, I think we've talked about the show before, how its accuracy could be questioned, but I'm definitely going to be watching that episode.
Right? 100%. 100%. But yeah, so that's really the story of Poveglia Island. It's kind of super mysterious. We know that literally hundreds of thousands of bodies were buried, burned, sent there.
That's insane.
But it's called the Plague Island.
Tiny island.
But that's not the only one. So I mean, the Poveglia was like a big one,
right?
But there are islands of, I'm gonna mess this pronunciation up because I didn't practice this one, but Lazaretto Nuevo, Lazaretto Vecchio were also nearby islands that also had plague pits. So that's what people in Italy would do. They would send their sick and dying to these islands to die and get rid of them. So
that's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the story of Poveglia Island.
Wow.
And like, I'm actually really glad because I I'd heard of this before, but it's technically a haunted island. So I kind of wanted to do it as a haunt, but there's no ghost stories. I mean, there are
nobody's like allowed.
Yeah, so it's like I couldn't fit it in under hauntings because I was like, there's not enough information. But it's history, and I'm like, it's like, this makes sense.
Now you're not mad about my multiple suggested categories.
No, we could like weave them in there. No, I love having. Speaking of. What we're going to be talking about next week. Now, that's it for this episode, guys. If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to follow us. Leave a comment if you're on YouTube. Hi, like and subscribe.
17 subscribers.
Let's go. And we hit like a new high for most watched, right?
80, was it 81 or 82?
85?
80 in the 80s views.
Yeah.
On our John Benet Ramsey and Christmas special. So
oh god, that was so hard to listen to. That was probably one of the most fucked up stories I think you've ever told me. That one was rough. If you haven't watched it, guys, go check it out. We posted it right before Christmas because why not? No, but that was really good.
You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with our username at TTATA Podcast. And in the bio of all of our social media is our link tree, which links you to our email. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, hit us up. Let us know.
You just want to say hi? We'll say hi back.
Yeah.
One of us will. Thanks for listening, guys. Next week, we are going to be doing myths and legends. Anyways, guys, with that, we're going to leave you with this inspirational quote.
Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
The same boiling water that softens the potato hardens the egg. It's what you're made of, not the circumstances.
Oh, damn.
And that was unknown. Who knows who said it, but it's
it's
great.
Good. Oh, that's so good. Damn. That was really good. I like that. Get that on a t-shirt. All right. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you next week. All right. Bye. Bye.